All right, good morning. Today is Tuesday, August 31st, 2021, and this is a regular meeting of the Kings County Board of Supervisors. Due to issues arising from COVID-19, the board is using a WebEx teleconferencing format for today's meeting and may be participating via the World Wide Web. If you'd like to make a public comment through the teleconferencing format today, please make sure that you are identified by name in the WebEx system. For those interested in commenting during unscheduled appearances, at 9 a.m., please use the raise your hand feature and wait to be recognized. You will be allowed up to 2 minutes for public comment. If you wish to speak during the public hearing at 10 a.m., please use the raise your hand feature when the public hearing is open and wait to be recognized. You will be allowed up to 5 minutes per speaker. Members in the audience who have filled out speaker cards will be taken in the order that they were received by the clerk, and online speakers will be taken in the order they appear in the WebEx program showing that their hand is up. If you wish to speak today and are having issues with the raise your hand feature, please physically raise your hand so that we may see you and then wait to be recognized. Each vote today will be a verbal or voice vote so that members of the public can hear how each board member has voted. After we have had a motion and a second regarding each item we're taking up today, there will be a roll call vote by district. Madam Clerk, please call a roll.
Joe Nevs.
Here.
Richard Valley. Here. Doug Verboon. Here. Craig Peterson.
Here.
Richard Fagundes.
Here. Okay, we have 5 present. We'll move to the next item, which is the invocation. And today we have Pastor Andrew Cromwell from the Koinonia Church. I'm having trouble spitting those kind of things out today. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. And they say if you can pronounce it, then you must be a member or the pastor. If you just bow your head with me this morning, let's just go before the Lord. Lord, we thank you today for a new day, a day that is fresh with new mercies and new grace. And boy, do we need them today. And so we're just reaching out this morning at the beginning of this meeting, asking for your grace, your wisdom, your goodness. Lord, for every issue that's on the agenda today, for all the business that's going to happen within this county today, we're asking for your guidance. And most of all, we're asking for your blessing, Lord, that you would be in it and through it. I pray for this board, and there's so many issues that they face each and every day as they represent this county. I pray that you would give them strength and wisdom and courage to make the right decisions, to see down the road, not just the issue that's right before them, but even beyond that. Lord, I thank you for giving us leaders who are seeking the best for this place. And Lord, I pray that same thing for every department leader, for every employee within the county, God, that you today would strengthen them, their families, that you'd give them your grace. Lord, we know that many are in the hospital today, many are struggling with the virus. We pray strength, healing would be their portion today. Lord, thank you for this county. And we just ask for your great grace to be extended, Lord, that even the rain from heaven, not only spiritual, but also physical rain would be given so that this county might be blessed beyond measure. We pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Cromwell. Now, if you would please join me in the flag salute. Ready, salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We should fine him, right? We'll fine him half his salary for the first ring, and any further rings, you're going to be in debt, so you're going to have to stay a little longer and work it off. All right. This time we'll move to item 2, which is unscheduled appearances. Any person may directly address the board at this time on any item on the agenda or other items of interest to the public that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. 2 minutes are allowed for each item.
I have no speaker cards and no one with their hands raised, but I understand Josh from Fire is here to speak.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Just want to give you an update on your fire department. Currently, we have 22 personnel scattered throughout the state fighting some of the 4 wildfires. Those fires are, we have 1 personnel on the Monument Fire, which is 161,155 acres and 23% contained. Our dozer is on the French Fire in Kern County. It's 25,436 acres and it's 40% contained. We have 3 of our patrols, our Type 6s, on the Caldor Fire in Lake Tahoe. It's 186,000 acres, 15% contained. And today, coming home, we still have 2 Type 3s out. They'll be coming home from the Dixie Fire, which is the 2nd largest fire in the state history at 807,396 acres, and it's 48% contained. And the rest of the staff still covering the station up to full staff, so your department's still 100% ready to go and supplementing fires throughout the state. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I don't see any further public comments, so we'll move to item 3, which is approval of the minutes. And that is 3A, and report out of closed session on August 24th, 2021.
Your board took no reportable action.
Thank you. We'll now move to item B, which is approval of the minutes from the August 24th, 2021 regular meeting. Board, which pleasure?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs.
Yes.
Richard Valley. Doug Verboon.
Yes.
Craig Peterson.
Yes.
Richard Fagundes.
Okay, we have 5 in favor. Motion carries. We'll now move to item 4, which is a consent calendar. And just for informational purposes, item 4A2 is going to be pulled and presented to us. So we'll, with that, entertain motion to accept the rest of the consent calendar.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar as amended.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs.
Yes.
Richard Valley.
Aye.
Doug Verboon.
Yes.
Craig Peterson.
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Okay, 5 in favor, motion carries. We'll now move back to item A2, which is consider adopting a resolution declaring the month of September 2021 as Suicide Prevention Awareness Month in Kings County.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Okay. Good morning, Chairman and the members of the boards. Unchung Perry from Behavior Health. This morning, Kings County Behavior Health is requesting your boards to adopt the resolution to observe September as National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month in Kings County. While suicide prevention is important to address year-round, Suicide Prevention Awareness Month provides a dedicated time to come together with collective passion and strength around this difficult topic. Every year, the Lifeline and other mental health organizations and individuals across the country raise awareness of suicide prevention during the month of September. Suicide continues to be a preventable public health and mental health issue that impacts many families and communities across the nation. In an effort to increase public awareness of suicide prevention for Kings County, in collaboration with the Kings County Mental Health Task Force, the department has planning and co-sponsoring the Central Valley Suicide Prevention Summit, partnering with surrounding counties, launching a social media campaign along with the expanded radio campaigns that target specific risk demographics in English and Spanish. This dissemination of a suicide prevention awareness kits to local stakeholders, school districts, and the local community-based providers. And also a collaboration with the Kings County Office of Education on the creation and launching of a comprehensive suicide prevention resource guide to all schools in Kings County. And there will be a various public outreach events throughout the county this month. The department would like to request your board to adopt this resolution for observing September as National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month in Kings County. Thank you. I can answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the board? Okay, entertain a motion.
If there are no questions, Madam Chair, Nevs moves to adopt.
Verboon seconds.
We have a motion and second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs.
Yes.
Richard Valley.
Aye.
Doug Verboon.
Yes.
Craig Peterson.
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Okay, we have 5 in favor. Motion carries. We'll now move to the regular agenda items, and that's item 5A, which comes from the district attorney's office.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We're presenting this year our real estate fraud prosecution trust fund program. And for those who are unaware, this program, it receives funding for all the investigations that are conducted. This year, we added about $64,000 to the fund, bringing the total to $351,254. We expended no funds out this year, and I'll take any questions. It's the annual report.
Okay, very good. Questions, comments?
No question, Mr. Chair. Move as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Joe Nevs.
Yes.
Richard Valley.
Aye.
Doug Verboon.
Yes.
Craig Peterson.
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Okay, we have 5 in favor. Motion carries. Next, we'll move to item 5B, Department of Finance. James Erb owes half his salary. Please pay before you speak.
That was the president calling.
The PTA? Or
Jim Erb, Director of Finance. I'm proposing a new way here to treat contingencies and kind of excess fund balance. So fund balance is calculated each year by taking our revenue, any salary savings that we have, any other savings, and contingencies, saving and contingencies, adding those together and subtracting out expenditures, and what we're left with is fund balance available. It's always a positive number. It usually comes in right around 14 to 16 million. But this year we had a higher amount. And in the past, we've kind of let it fall to contingencies. So contingencies go up and they go down. And I'm proposing that we have a consistent level of contingencies at 3.5%. It's recommended that we have somewhere between 3 and 5, but 3.5% gives us a little over 11 million in contingencies, which is higher than normal. And so if we see some kind of downturn, if we, if COVID hits us harder than what we expect, we'll be able to cover that. And then we take the difference and we put it into things that we are planning to do in the future. And we call it assigned fund balance. GASB breaks fund balance up into 5 categories, and there are all different levels of restriction on them, and assigned fund balance is the lowest level of restriction. So it basically means this is a plan, but it's nothing set in stone that we have to stick with. If your board decides in 6 months that we need this money somewhere else and we put it to automation, but we need it for something different, you can make that change easy enough. So I have it going into 3 different categories. Economic uncertainty, that's like a rainy day fund. That's always a good thing to have, and that's very broad. It can be used for a number of different things. Automation replacement. Now this is something that it's just, there's no escaping automation. And there's things that we could do here in Kings County right now, like scanning all of our documents, improving our email system. We've just put in a property tax system and an accounting system, and both of them we had to finance because we didn't have the money set aside. So this will set some aside. Payroll system is something that's going to be coming up probably in the next few years, either a big upgrade or moving to a different payroll system. So this is a plan. And our credit agencies who come in and rate us, this is a good thing to see. It shows up on our balance sheet, shows that we're putting money aside and we're setting up some plans. Now the last one, the court audit adjustment, that's not so much of a plan. That's something that's real. And we've had a court revenue auditor here over the last couple months, and they've had some findings in our office and findings in the probation department. It's extremely complicated, the way it gets distributed and split between the county and the state, and it's spreadsheets that get developed and get added onto, and if something is wrong on those spreadsheets, it can often go unmissed for a long period of time. And these errors that they've come up with have been in the spreadsheet since 2016. So they've accumulated, and we'll have some interest that's based on that. So it's a real finding that we're going to have to pay back, so we may as well set the money aside now. The last recommendation that I have is funding PARS. That's something that your board heard a presentation on back in 2016, gave direction to fund it when we had the money to fund it, and now we do. This is a great way to offset future pension increases and to kind of protect the general fund. Their earnings are between 6 and 8% for the moderate investments, where in our treasury we're earning about 0.9% right now. So I think it's a prudent investment for us, and if pension costs go up, we can draw on this to help offset that year's expenses. So that's the item. Any questions?
Questions from the board?
I got a question. So how is this different from monies we've already allocated for these types of things, specifically contingencies? And I ask that from the standpoint of fiscally, yes, the rainy day account, having it there for emergencies versus things that we've been waiting on and always waiting on money to get certain things done. How is this different from that? Meaning, why shouldn't we put some of these more monies into actions versus growing the contingencies?
So I'm trying to not grow contingencies, and contingencies are there to put into action if you need it. And we have a bucket of about 11 million that we can draw on for that. So this is kind of what I consider excess to that right now, and that's what we're putting aside for. I'm not sure.
You're just looking for a place to park the excess?
Kind of, yes. Instead of just leave it in contingencies, which is what we've done. I've always seen contingencies set as a percentage of general fund expenditures, or a fixed amount. Like Fresno puts $1 million into contingencies each year, and they leave it fixed at that. So there's different ways of doing it, but we've just always allowed it to all fall into contingencies. Contingencies go up and down, and during the budget process, admin has to, not fight, but work out with the departments how much of that contingency is going to be left and what they need to use. So I believe if you come in with, our contingencies always need to be 3%, 3.5%, then it's kind of a fixed expenditure like salaries, and then any excess is what you work out in the budget process. So it's the money's all still there to be used for whatever you want. This looks a little better on our balance sheet because now we have fund balance available, and then we have fund balance assigned to different areas that we know we're going to incur costs, and at some time in the future. So we're just preparing for those.
Larry, what's your?
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, I was from the past of just putting contingencies and let it stay. Effectively, this action does improve the balance sheet. It does better for our bond rating purposes. And also, it doesn't really change anything other than if you just leave it in contingencies, it rolls into fund balance next year automatically. And I think we have a unique set of circumstances this year that allow us to set monies aside for these particular items that he's pointed out. And I also would point out that, for instance, automation replacement, I mean, we'd have to routinely go in every so often and just say, hey, we need to allocate some money for automation purposes. And so to the extent we just already have that set up, I think it's very helpful. I also think the $1 million for pension obligation, for pension increases, we know that's going to happen. So to the extent that we can set that aside for that purpose, I think it makes total sense that we do it this way.
Okay. Hey, thanks, sir, for your answers and questions.
Sure. I'd just finally like to follow up with thank you for this. This is, this is always good to hear. Using sound business principles in county government is refreshing, and I think you either plan to fail or fail to plan, and I think this is the right step. We don't need to be dependent completely on other means of funds that seem to be so plentiful right now, and it's just a responsible way of managing our money and again, without a plan, it's just kind of willy-nilly. So I truly appreciate this. And further questions,
Make
comments?
a motion to approve as presented. Thank you, Joe.
Okay. We have a motion and second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs.
Yes.
Richard Valley.
Aye.
Doug Verboon.
Yes.
Craig Peterson.
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Okay, we have 5 in favor. Motion carries. We'll now move.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I think this is going to be Jim Erb's last meeting as the finance director, if I'm not mistaken.
Bailiff?
The fourth? Okay, I thought you were going to be out, so.
I'll be out later that afternoon.
Okay, so you, okay.
I'll say my goodbyes then.
Okay, all right. I didn't want to let that go by. Thank you.
Your last meeting, you got it confused.
That's right. Now I stand corrected. Now I know. Okay, thank you.
All right. We're done with the reminiscing for now. All right. Okay, we'll move to item 5C, which is human resources. And Kenny, welcome.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Henny Ring with Human Resources. Today I'm presenting the item for Carolyn Lease. She is unavailable. The items today is agreement with NeoGov for the talent management suite. Human Resources is seeking approval for an agreement with NeoGov to purchase the software of the entire talent management suite, TMS, including professional services for integration with the county's payroll system, implementation of the TMS modules, and training. Human Resources has held contractual agreements with NeoGov for the past 14 years for the for the recruitment piece and applicant tracking modules. So we're asking today to increase other modules with this program. The county has purchased NeoGov system back in March of 2007, which included the Insight module, which is again the recruitment piece, and then the use of government jobs, which is the advertisement piece for those recruitments. These services assisted the county in automating the recruitment process, applicant tracking. Currently, we've been using that nonstop for all our recruitments in HR. It's a great product, and we really appreciate what NeoGov has given us in the sense of recruitment over the years. NeoGov serves over 6,000 organizations with over 19 years of experience. They are the leading provider of comprehensive human capital management solutions for the public sector, which is designed exclusively for government agencies and higher education institutions. NeoGov continuously upgrades their systems, offering more tools and procedures to increase efficiencies and ensure compliance with government agencies. As such, the TMS has expanded to include other modules such as Onboard, Perform, eForms, Learn, and Candidate Text Messaging. So they've really modernized some of their products. We are looking forward to doing Onboard and Forms right away. These modules would help the county to become more efficient, relieving both HR and other departments in completing duplicate work, streamline, expedite procedures, and provide a central location for departments to track onboarding forms. In addition, these forms would offer training, growth, and development while offering tools to supervisors and managers to identify and promote employee growth and nurture communications. The fiscal impact for the first year, 2021, would be $137,378. Second year fiscal 22-23, the cost is $134,640. And then fiscal year 23-24, the cost is $167,892. After the expiration of the initial term, the TMS suite bundle subscription fees shall not increase more than 3% from the prior annual term. And Carolyn did a great job of negotiating that with NeoGov. I think it's around 5%, but she got it to 3%. The cost of the services would include budget unit 121600. These costs don't include the ancillary overhead costs, such as it's going to reduce paper. Hopefully we'll be more paperless, and some of those costs of this, that's not included, but we know this will go down. Today, HR is seeking board approval to authorize Human Resources Director to sign the agreement with NeoGov for the NeoGov talent management suite bundled subscription fees and professional services beginning October 1st, 2021. And I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Seeing none.
I'll move with presented. Thank you.
Nev, second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs.
Yes.
Richard Valley.
Aye.
Doug Verboon.
Yes.
Craig Peterson.
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Okay, we have 5 in favor. Motion carries. We'll now move to item 5D, which comes from Public Works Department. And Mr. Tyberski, welcome.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dominic Tyberski, Public Works. I am before you this morning to request approval of change order number 3 for the Kings County Sheriff's Operations Building Site Improvement Project and authorize the Public Works Director to sign the change order. The Sheriff's Operations Building, which is currently under construction between the Kings County Jail and the DRC on the Day Reporting Center on Kings County Drive, will house sheriff's staff currently adjacent to the old jail on Lacey Boulevard. The project was bid as 2 separate contracts, one being the site improvements and the other being the modular building, which is being fabricated off-site. This change order is for the site development contract as required to provide the following additional improvements. We're going to add some additional storm drain pipe that was not originally contemplated. There is a City of Hanford fire inspection fee, the installation of a natural gas line, and the excavation of the exterior elevator pit. Additionally, the Sheriff's Office has asked that we maximize parking where possible, and as such, the final item of this change order is to add 12 parking stalls along the East Drive at the southwest gated entrance to the Sheriff's facility. This change order is just under $84,000, and combined with the previous 2 change orders brings the total site development cost to just under $732,000. Construction is anticipated to be complete by the end of February of 2022. And at this point, be happy to try to answer any questions.
Very good, thank you. Questions from the board?
Change order number 3, Joe.
You noticed that too, huh? Kind of an odd number.
Yeah, we got the walls up yet.
Yeah, I know. And they're just still digging. And they didn't find anything new. They're just trying to put old stuff in.
Well, with that, I'll make a motion, and hopefully we don't have a change order number 4.
Did you hear that, Dominic?
I did.
I just wanted that made sure on the record that 3's kind of the limit.
Okay. We're getting very close to the modular building being delivered, so I'm hopeful this is the last change order.
I'll second that with definite. This is the last change order.
Yeah, and it appears that Jim Erb is going to have a cell to himself, and so maybe you could be Sellies.
Oh, great. Appreciate that.
All right, with that, motion and second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs.
Yes.
Richard Valley.
Aye.
Doug Verboon.
Yes.
Craig Peterson.
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Okay, we have 5 in favor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dominic. Okay, we'll move to item 5E, which is administration. And Matthew, morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Matthew Boyette, Kings County Administration. A couple of weeks ago, on August 17th, 2021, your board held budget hearings for our fiscal year 21-22 budget, for which your board granted a temporary due pass across the entire budget with no additional changes, with further direction to come back before your board to bring back a resolution to formally adopt the budget. So attached in your agenda item packets is the resolution outlining total appropriations of government funds at $432,381,369, with total means of financing coming in at $432,381,369, which means we do have a balanced budget. And also having total appropriations for contingencies upon all funds right at $36,920,258. So if your board has no additional questions about the budget, we respectfully request that you adopt the resolution approving the final fiscal year 2021-2022 Kings County budget. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion and second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs.
Yes.
Richard Valley.
Aye.
Doug Verboon.
Yes.
Craig Peterson.
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Very good. We have 5 in favor. Motion carries. We can now spend money. All right. Now move to item 5F, which comes from the Health Department. And Ms. Darcy Pickens. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Darcy Pickens, Public Health. I'd like to start my report by reminding everyone of the simple steps we can all take to protect ourselves from communicable diseases such as COVID-19. Frequently wash your hands for 20 seconds or more. Do not touch your face with unwashed hands. Stay hydrated with water. A hydrated cell is a healthy cell. Stay home if you are sick. Wear a face mask to continue to protect those unvaccinated around you. And finally, get vaccinated. As a reminder, our daily numbers are also available on our website. We continue to watch hospital data very closely. Regional hospital admissions in MedSurg and ICU are continuing to increase, including here in our local hospital. As of August 29th, the local hospital had 70 patients in MedSurg and 9 in the ICU. Of those admitted, 51 are Kings County residents. Since July 1st, unvaccinated COVID patients have accounted for approximately 89% of those admissions, and about 11% of those hospitalized have been vaccinated. Adventist Health again submitted a request for staffing through mutual aid. This time it was, they were granted 3 ICU nurses through that process. We are monitoring hospital resource requests daily. Our communication with them has increased, and of course we will assist as necessary. It's also important to note that it's possible our local hospital capacity may be impacted by wildfires in other parts of the state. Over the weekend, Barton Hospital in South Lake Tahoe was evacuated, and a mutual aid request did go out to coordinate the transfer of patients. Our local hospital was not needed for transfers at this time, but that could change at any point given the rapidly changing wildfire situation. As a reminder, the assess and refer policy currently in place via the Central California Emergency Medical Services Agency directs paramedics and EMTs to refer a patient to urgent care or their provider if, after a full assessment, the patient exhibits no emergent conditions that would require immediate transport to an emergency room. We reported on that a couple weeks back. On August 25th, EMSA sent an additional memo directing ambulance providers in Fresno and Madera counties to implement, as part of their assess and refer policy, the requirement that patients meeting the criteria for referral will no longer be transported to the hospital. Currently, EMS policy allows ambulance transport if the patient insists. However, due to conditions at hospitals in Fresno and Madera counties, this exception has been removed, and patients meeting criteria for referral will no longer be given transport to the hospital. EMSA is monitoring the status of both Kings and Tulare County and will expand the new requirement if it becomes necessary in those areas. Our PPE status has not changed. We are still maintaining a 60-day supply of PPE for our healthcare facilities. The mobile testing site schedule for this week is on our website, and testing demand has continued to increase. Just as a means of comparison, from the last week in July to this past week in August, there was a 377% increase in testing demand just in our department alone. That's not including the other testing providers in the community. Yesterday, we surpassed our internal record for a daily total at 718 tests. Our last total was right around 625, I think. This is driven in part by testing requirements for schools and healthcare facilities and other congregate settings. So it's important to know that this is not strictly driven by symptomatic patients seeking testing. We remain committed to keeping testing readily available throughout the county, particularly in areas where healthcare access is a barrier. Though I also want to point out that some California counties are now reporting a shortage of testing kits, particularly rapid kits, and wait times as long as 1 week just for a testing appointment, and then another week to get results. As you know, this makes transmission control very difficult because by the time patients receive their results, they may have already spread the virus to several others. It's been quite a long time since they were even feeling ill in many of these cases. And this is in part the reason it is so important to stay home if you're feeling ill. The counties reporting these delays are mainly relying on private labs. Here in Kings County, the health department uses the Valencia branch lab, which is a state lab. We know that that lab is also feeling the strain because we're seeing testing turnaround times right around 72 hours at this point, which is a pretty significant increase from what we saw a few weeks ago. We had 694 new cases last week, bringing our new count since the start of the current surge to 3,101 new cases. Again, last week, we saw the most significant rise in cases among the 0 to 11 age group, with a slight increase among 12 to 15-year-olds, while other age groups still appear to have leveled off. This was expected as elementary schools started opening, and the 0 to 11 age group is not yet eligible for vaccination. Our Delta variant case count has also increased to 130 this week as the variant continues to spread. Currently, there are 29,194 reported cases of the Delta variant in California. And as you know, we believe these numbers are underreported as the state continues to work on the backlog and identifying these variant cases. Last week, Public Health administered 359 vaccines, remaining fairly consistent with the 2 weeks prior. Seeing our vaccination numbers just remains relatively steady with some gains in comparison to prior months is really encouraging. People are recognizing the benefits of vaccination and making the decision to help protect themselves and others in this way. On Monday, August 23rd, the Health Department began administering additional third doses of the vaccine for immunocompromised individuals. And we have seen demand remain steady since that time, but we continue to have appointment and walk-in availability. As mentioned last week, the approval for vaccine boosters for those 65 and older and other populations is expected in the near future. I'm sure that you have heard that date kind of keeps changing and getting thrown around, so we're monitoring that closely. We are ready for that change when it happens. We continue to add pop-up and mobile vaccine locations as staffing allows, and are also working with interested parties on requesting mobile vaccination clinics from the state when the department can't personally fulfill that request. I just want to highlight for a moment a partnership at one of our ongoing mobile clinics in Avenal's Floyd Rice Park. That clinic has continued past the 2 initially scheduled events thanks to a partnership between KCDPH, HealthNet, and the United Farm Workers Foundation, who's really leading that effort. Each of us has contributed to the success of those events through our respective areas of expertise, and we've all really shown the flexibility to continue with those events based on demand. So it's been a really great thing to see we can accomplish a whole lot more together than we can as one department. So far, Kings County providers have administered 101,927 vaccines to county residents. And our current breakthrough rate is approximately 0.7%. This is again a slight increase from last week. We've been seeing it tick up just a little bit, but our vaccine numbers also continue to rise, so that's to be expected. It is still showing to work as intended. The takeaway from this week's report is that we are again seeing significant strain on our hospital system statewide, serving as a stark reminder that the pandemic continues, triggering frequent changes at the state level. I believe our staff at the health department and in the county, because this truly has been a team effort, are doing a truly excellent job at continuing to meet the demand for COVID-19 related services. This time has not been easy on anyone. Though we also recognize this surge has caused increased stress and hardship for much of our community, and that our work to support them is far from over. Our approach will continue to be layered, including but not limited to vaccination, testing, and encouraging those everyday measures that can make a significant difference, such as hand hygiene, masking, and isolating when sick. This concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Good, thank you. Questions from the board?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Supervisor Valley, District 2. Couple of questions here. So I'm glad you brought up the fact about the health department employees as we are again in this surge. Are you getting the support you need? Meaning is last year we had employees from different departments come in and assigned and taken on that role. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Are you flush with that? Are you lacking with that? And I ask that from the standpoint that, we want to make sure those employees, or I'm concerned about the employees, their health, their safety, their morale on there. It has been a long time.
Supervisor Valley, through the chair, thank you. Absolutely, we are getting the support that we need. Just yesterday, an email went out countywide because we saw an increase in cases over the weekend. Because of our increase in testing numbers and having to divert staff to that, we really needed assistance with case investigation and contact tracing. So that email called on county staff to come and help, and immediately they started signing up for slots. Okay. It took, like I said, truly a team effort to get that process set up because it's not easy. There's training involved and supervision that has to happen, and it moved into place immediately.
Good. I'm happy to hear that. What about, so you talked about moving forward. So a couple things moving forward. So we're hearing about the boosters that are either are available now or are coming for the public. Can you talk a little bit about that? Is there a plan in place for the boosters shots for the COVID vaccine as far as being proactive? Are the people that you have on file for coming in to getting their first shot or their 2 shots of the Pfizer and the Moderna, are we going to notify them automatically that either via text or email, whatever communication they put in the registration to get the vaccine in the first place, to let them know that it's there if they want that?
Supervisor Valley, through the chair, the state is planning on sending out text messages based on what's in the broader care system. We often don't have complete vaccination records if someone didn't vaccinate with us through their entire series. But we do have plans in place to take on the anticipated increase with booster vaccinations. So we've got staff lined up to start helping with that. Training has already started, and our internal systems are changed to be ready for that switch. The one thing we don't have control over is the state system. So that always makes it a little bit tricky to determine exactly when the changeover is going to happen, even once FDA and the Vaccine Advisory Committee approval happens. My turn, the state system may take another week plus to make the change on their end. We're required to use that system. But what happens, we have a staffing memo go out. We've already done training on boosters based on everything that we know now. So we are prepared to deal with that increase.
Including supply of vaccines?
Supervisor Valley, through the chair, right now we are doing okay with vaccine supply. We did see a short interruption statewide in the Janssen or Johnson & Johnson vaccine. It didn't impact us here in Kings. We had plenty of supply. So right now we're doing okay. Okay.
And the reason why I ask about our own plan here countywide, even talking with Ed the other day on issues with the My Digital, to get the digital copy on your phone of your vaccine record, right? So if anyone ever wants to verify you, you have the scan code to pull up, right? And hearing the backlog on that, I was lucky. I did it. It took 15 seconds. I loved it. I got it. But as I was trying to get members of the community registered, it would say there's no record on file of your vaccine, and then people get frustrated. So I think it's important that we need to be proactive countywide. We have the funds. We have the ARPA funds. There's no excuse for us not to engage, invest in getting that out, even to the point of, I'd love to hear someone come back and talk about the mobile vaccination pop-ups, but specifically where we're promoting the booster and going into the rural communities to provide those booster shots, but promoting that proactively and not depending on the state right now. What are your thoughts on that?
Supervisor Valley, through the chair. So just kind of 2 points there. One, with the electronic vaccine verification system, we don't have control over that state system, but what we have been doing internally is making sure that all of our vaccination staff, including our support staff and those that are not currently working in vaccination, so those that we plan to deploy if necessary, are trained in all 3 of the electronic systems that we use. So we're doing triple data entry at this point to make sure that anyone we vaccinate has their record in that system, at least that their information is available to be pushed into that system at the state level. And that we can pull up those records if the patient, him or herself, cannot. So that's one. As far as promotion of boosters, we haven't started to promote boosters at this point. What we have done is work with different CBOs and outreach groups to try to help get the word out, and those conversations are ongoing. Actually, we just had a conversation with the state this morning because they're having conversations with some CBOs on the local level and making connections that we may or may not have been aware of in the past. So they're kind of helping to facilitate that. But I think that the partnership with the United Farm Workers Foundation is a great example. They really have the capacity to go out and do more door-to-door canvassing than we do at this point. We are doing that. They add to the capacity, right? And so working with them, we've been able to pull out more people than we would normally be able to. And those events have continued because of that. And so we have those conversations with our partners and let them know, hey, boosters are coming. This is what we expect. These are our terms. For example, with the immunocompromised population, we have a self-attestation form. They're aware of that, so they can answer some of those questions to the populations that they work with.
How many community-based organizations are we working with right now?
Oh, I don't have an exact number for you, but I can bring that back.
Is it more than one?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So again, the funding's there. We have the monies, and if those organizations have the troops that want to do the door-to-doors, then that's what I want to hear about. Whether the board needs to authorize the money, or you as department heads have the ability to move forward on that. I think those are important things to stay on top of. So I appreciate the work. Just 2 more questions, Mr. Chair. So one, can you clarify, I'm glad you brought up, and I'm glad the county did a press release. It was a good press release on the fact of, I forget what you called it, as it related to the ambulance and the assessment. So the Fresno Bee ran a story, and the Adventist, the hospital group, the spokesman, he included Kings County in his statements and said that we were under that protocol. Can you clarify that? Because a couple of times in your report, you mentioned that Kings County was not at that level yet. So is that taking place, meaning you call 911, they're not going to take you to the hospital in Kings County?
Supervisor Valley, through the chair, the last memo that we have at the health department says Kings is not part of that change, although I will go back and double check to see if that's changed in the past few days. And I can let the board know if there's been a change that I'm not aware of.
Okay, thank you. And I'll just close with this. Mr. Chair, I think it's important that, it's obvious that the counties were on our own. Last night, you saw the news break. The Assembly, the Senate, they put a bill away where they were going to discuss either vaccine mandates or tested mandates for employees or different events. All that's been shelved, and it's just obvious that the last 2 months, politics are leading this COVID surge and this pandemic now. And I'm not happy about that, but we're on our own. So whether it's the Board of Supervisors, the Health Department, if we don't want to engage, then that means the public's on their own. So my message to everyone is just keep your guard up, get vaccinated, because you are on your own. Thank you.
Thank you. If I might just provide one more point of clarification, Supervisor Valley, through the chair. Regarding the EMSA memo, I think I'm understanding where that comment came from with the Fresno Bee. So Kings County is included in the assess and refer policy currently. The change that happened recently that I was bringing to the board today says that in Fresno and Madera counties, not yet Kings County, if someone insists on going to the hospital, they are still told, no, you must be referred to urgent care or your provider. So in Kings County, if a patient were to insist, then they would still be transported to the hospital. That's the change in policy that happened most recently.
Okay, but if you don't know that, then you will just get assessed and probably treated in your front yard or your home. If you don't know to insist, then no one's going to tell you. No one's going to tell you that.
Supervisor Valley, through the chair, I can't speak to what that process looks like on the ground, unfortunately. Okay. I'm not sure.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Yep, thank you. One other question. You know, during the height of the surge, our last big surge, the state, you know, initiated a surge center kind of model. You know, we had one in Fresno and Porterville, and have you heard any discussions on, I mean, obviously it didn't get used at the height of the surge, and just curious if you've heard anything through the grapevine there. That.
Chairman, no. Well, at this point, we don't believe that the ACS site in Porterville will be reactivated. And the most current state health officer orders that came out really have to do with the acceptance of transfer patients regionally and then statewide rather than opening surge centers. I don't have other details in addition to that. I'm sure there's more to that story that I'm missing, so I'd be happy to bring that back and give you the full picture at the next meeting.
Yeah. You know, I mean, the numbers, I don't know if we're getting close to the numbers, you know, where we were last time, but obviously it didn't, you know, meet the need to be open. But just curious, I haven't heard much with respect to that. And
are you talking about the one that they put all them beds at the Fresno Convention Hall and
yeah,
that never get
there and in Porterville as well? Yeah.
Well, we remember at Mr. Hill in the first round of care funds, he had money that he was requesting for a setup here in Kings County, and at that time we actually moved that over for small business the programs. I don't know if you bring that up from a point of concern, but maybe we get some information on that next week.
I think that's what she said. She would just see where things are at with respect to that.
Yeah, we'd be happy to bring that back.
All right, thank you. Better to be prepared than not and
Absolutely.
have that information in hand. Okay, any further questions from the board?
I've routinely kind of given the information to the board regarding how we're doing with the workforce in Kings County. Presently, since this surge started, we're at 68 cases, of which, as we speak here today, and of course, that's 68, many of which have come back, but that's the total that have gone through. And so as we speak right now, there's 15 positive cases, and there's 25 that are quarantining and or working remotely. I don't know if quarantining is a word, but in quarantine or working remotely. So you can derive from that, you know, over 20 have come back. And so we're kind of on that steady plane right now. So just wanted to make sure your board's aware of that.
Yeah, I think with the lag in testing and then the bad air quality, I mean, it's just everybody, you know, has sinus issues right now, and it's kind of difficult to determine, and waiting for that test to come back. Excuse me. Okay, further questions? None? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, We do have next on our agenda a public hearing. We are going to take a short recess to allow for everything to be set up properly. So at this time, we'll be back at 10 o'clock to open the public hearing. All right, so we'll go to recess. Very good. Okay, we'll go ahead and return from recess and resume. It is just a little after 10 o'clock, and we have a public hearing scheduled on the county's 2021 supervisorial redistricting process. And so with that, we have both administration and county council. Diane?
Thank you very much. Good morning, members of the public, Board of Supervisors, CAO. This is Diane Freeman, Deputy County Counsel, here today to introduce the third redistricting public hearing. This public hearing is being held in person and is also being broadcasted via WebEx and YouTube teleconferencing formats. If you're joining us via YouTube, you will not be able to make public comment. If you would like to make public comment through the teleconferencing format today, please make sure that you have joined the meeting through WebEx and are identified by name in the WebEx system. Also, please mute yourself until the time has come to speak. Please state your name and address for the record. If you have joined via WebEx and wish to speak during the public hearing, please use the raise your hand feature on the far right next to your name when the public hearing is open for comments. Please wait to be recognized. You will be allowed up to 5 minutes for comment. If you cannot access the raise your hand feature, please physically raise your hand on your screen and we'll call on you at the time of the public comment. The county has a live Spanish language interpreter for those present, and we'll also be broadcasting the Spanish version of this hearing via the published Spanish WebEx and YouTube links. If you are currently in our board chambers and need a translator, please raise your hand. Seeing none, I'll continue. Materials presented at today's hearing are available on the county's redistricting website, redistrictkings.com. And now at this time, I'll introduce the item before you. Every 10 years, the county's supervisorial districts must be redrawn so that each district is substantially equal in population. Redistricting is important to ensure that each supervisor represents approximately the same number of constituents. Redistricting determines how neighborhoods and communities are grouped together into supervisorial districts for purposes of electing a board member. The county will, as part of its 2021 redistricting process, hold 5 public hearings to engage the public. The county held its first public hearing on July 20th, 2021, and its second public hearing on July 27th, 2021. Today, the county is holding its third public hearing. With today's hearing, the county will again educate the public about the redistricting process, how individuals and groups can participate, and it will encourage conversation about communities of interest. At the meeting today, the county seeks input from all those physically present and online about how they define their communities and about how the lines should be drawn to respect their interests. Notice of today's public hearing was published in the county's redistricting website, redistrictkings.com. It was also promoted online through the county's redistricting social media accounts on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Links to these accounts can be found at the redistrictkings.com website. A flyer announcing the public hearing was posted online and distributed to local community-based organizations via email. In addition, the county's public outreach consultant, Tri-Pepe Smith, placed calls to community-based organizations to personally notify them of today's hearing. Finally, a public hearing notice was published in the Hanford Sentinel. Upon conclusion of this hearing, the county will make available online recordings or summaries of the public hearing. And now at this time, I'll transition the presentation to Jeff Tilton, who is from National Demographics Corporation, and the consultant who is leading the redistricting process on behalf of the county.
Thanks, Diane. Good morning, everyone. That concludes the presentation because Diane did such a great job. Any questions? In all seriousness, this is the third public hearing. If we can get that PowerPoint up just to take all the focus off of me. And if we can close the participant window, that'd be great too, so we can have a full screen for the supervisors who are here in the chambers looking at that. This is the third. It's part of what we call pre-draft map hearings. You will hear probably 99.9% the same that you heard from the first two. As Diane had mentioned earlier, a big part of this pre-draft map hearings rather, is to educate the public. And so we had a gentleman last time who spoke and said it was just a repeat of the first one. That's by design. It's really for those who may have missed and gives them an opportunity to participate in the pre-draft hearings. So with that, next slide, please. So here's our schedule as part of the process. We are, as Diane mentioned, the third public hearing. Between the time that this particular PowerPoint slide was created, we had a magical occurrence happen with the federal census release. So you don't see that August 12th was the actual census release. For all those who are really census geeks, it was the day of celebration. It also came out 4 days early. I say that in jest because it should have been out in March, but we all know that we're dealing with the pandemic and how it really impacted all of our lives in so many ways, including the census release. With that, folks say, oh, can't we start now and do our districting and all that? Well, not really, because California is going to take all that data and adjust it based on the prison population in the California state prisons. And it needs about 4 to 6 weeks to do that. We think, based on the federal release, that the middle to end of September will be the time that we can really look at the true data for California and its jurisdiction. So everything I talk about today with respect to mapping tools and things like that is still centered around estimated data from National Demographics Corporation, okay? Between now and everything is so compressed, by the way, because as you know that this process for those who are having June elections, this has to be finished by December 15th. And you will finish by that time because your last public hearing for this process will be on December 7th. But you'll have one again on November 3rd. And once the data are released, we can start drawing maps. And the public can draw maps at any time, but as far as National Demographics Corporation or staff of the County of Kings, we can't start drawing maps until, at this point, mid-October. But again, as I said, the public can draw maps starting today. Again, using estimated data, but once the California data are released, then they can still draw and submit maps. We highly, highly encourage that. We do have deadlines for folks who are going to draft maps, and it's going to be October 20th. That gives us time to formalize those maps for you. When you receive draft maps, it won't just be a picture that it has 5 different colors and numbers that represent those 5 districts. It'll have a huge, robust table of data that support each of the districts, and we'll talk to those particular districts on the draft maps, because it's the intent of that November 3rd public hearing for you to pare down those draft maps to 2 or 3, or maybe you like 1, to go into that December 7th public hearing to where you'll choose your final map. That said, the public can still submit maps for that December 7th public hearing for you to consider. You might give me direction at that November 3rd public hearing to say, we really like this particular map. Can you make an adjustment here and there and see how it falls out? So that's essentially the schedule. You'll adopt it through the second reading of your ordinance on December 14th. Next slide, please. As part of this process, we must follow the federal laws. Our intention is to have 5 districts with equal population. That will, it won't be a struggle, but I can fairly guarantee you're not going to get 100% equal population. It's just the way things work out. So the Supreme Court has provided some variance of 10% or less from each of the, or excuse me, in total of the equal population piece. We must follow the Federal Voting Rights Act, and we can have no racial gerrymandering. So that's the federal law. Now we're going to go into California as part of the Fair Maps Act. We must follow in this particular order when we're looking at draft maps, and I'll help you with that, particularly for your November and December meetings. The districts must be geographically contiguous, meaning that if we're going to draw a district, that we're going to not lift up our pencil and then continue on with the district. We're, to the best extent possible, not to divide neighborhoods or communities of interest. I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. Same thing with cities and census designated places, CDPs. We want to have easily identifiable boundaries Some of the easiest ones are, say, like California highways, canals out here in Central Valley, clearly cities, parks, things like that. We want the districts to be compact. We don't want tentacles reaching into perhaps another district. That's just an invitation to say it's political gerrymandering. And we shall not favor or discriminate against a political party. Next slide, please. So the big part of the public hearing is to try to get data from the board and from community members on what are the neighborhoods in Kings County? What are some of the geographical boundaries? And I mentioned roads, canals, neighborhood landmarks, schools, things like that. And in the absence of any testimony, we can use planning records, emails, any other types of documentation. It would be great to get some data to help inform those who want to draft maps, and including National Demographics Corporation. What are your thoughts in that respect as we look at neighborhoods? Next slide, please. Same thing with communities of interest. Generally, what is a community of interest? And in essence, it is an area of shared and economic interests. Some of those things that are typical might be like neighborhood or homeowners associations, census designated places. Some of those rural areas, they have clearly shared interests and sometimes policy interests from the county. And so we'd like to know that. And then, would a community of interest benefit from a single district for the purposes of effective and fair representation, or would it benefit for having more than one? And I look at the county, and I'm really going to butcher the federal census numbers, but if we looked at Hanford alone, Hanford's population would be too large for one single district. So that already answers the question that Hanford's going to have probably multiple representation or somehow divided up in how you feel what's best. The communities of interest may not include relationships with political parties, incumbents, or political candidates. Next slide, please. So we had some public comment from the previous two public hearings, and you see that for your consideration as we look at drafting maps. We'd love to get some more from today's public hearing, so that's why that's blank. Next slide, please. So we have some mapping tools. The county is contracted with National Demographics to provide mapping tools for the community to use. It doesn't really matter if individuals want to use the mapping tools. They can use a paper napkin and draw the 5 districts in the county. We'll do our best to represent their ideas as to how the county should look with respect to the 5 districts. Next slide, please. Part of the mapping tools is not necessarily a drawing tool. It's more of a review tool. So every draft map that is created, we'll post that on the county's website. That'll give the public, yourself, an opportunity to look at what's been submitted, what do they look like? And you can actually layer them on top of each other to look at the differences. Next slide, please. A simple drawing tool is the public paper kit, and it is broken up into population units. Embedded in that is another page would be Hanford and Lemoore, because it would be too small, the numbers would be too small. But essentially the task here is to take those population units, color in, hopefully you're using 5 different colors, and then add up those numbers to see if you get an equal population. You'll see, you don't see it on this particular example, but, oh yes you do. On the lower left corner, I have the screen in front of me, the lower left corner is the name and phone and or email. It's there primarily so if we have questions on an individual's draft, that we can get back to them and ask, are we best representing your ideas? The map will not be named after them. It'll be a number, 101, 102, whatever. However, that said, it is also public record, so anybody could see that who submitted a particular map if they wanted to investigate that, if that was their deal. Next slide, please. Same type of principle, except instead of population numbers inside those population unit areas, there's a single identifier number, and you drop that in the individual number into a district that you want that particular population unit to go. It does all the adding for you. It creates all those robust data tables I had mentioned earlier. It's a pretty easy. It doesn't really require a whole lot of skill level with respect to knowing Excel. It does. We do it all, or excuse me, Excel does it all for you. Next slide, please. Yeah, just keep going. Thanks. This is District R. It's a really cool tool. I really like it a lot because it's nice and easy. And it requires just basically 4 instruments to create a map. And those 4 instruments are in the upper right-hand corner. You have a finger, and that's essentially to move your map around. You have what's looks like a line that's going at an angle. That's a paintbrush, and that's the one that's circled right now. Right next to that is an eraser, in case you make a mistake with your paintbrush, and then a magnifying glass to drill down. So basically, you just take the color of the district you want to create, and it just paints in the district. As you go along, it populates. It tells you what the population is, and then it shows here. Looks like I can't see the number, but it shows what your ideal population should be in each district. I think it says 27,000 or something. It's hard for me to read right here on the screen. So it's a really cool tool. You can see the URL up there, district.org/tag/kingsco. Next slide, please. One that requires a lot more skill. Can we go back to the previous slide, please? I'm sorry, Matt. Thanks. Hey, the only downside of this one, it's only available in English. This is a tool designed from Tufts University between staff and students. It's a really cool tool. You'll see if you go on there, it's all over the nation. If you go on there right now, you're probably not going to see much action, especially for California, because they're waiting for the release of the prisoner adjusted data. Next slide, please. Same thing applies with Maptitude. You're not going to see a whole lot of updates on California jurisdictions because they're waiting for Sacramento to release that adjusted data. This is called Maptitude. It requires a lot of skill, a lot of patience, self-forgiveness because you will make errors. It requires a high skill level if you're not into GIS mapping. It is available in a number of languages, and they're also beta testing languages as well. Next slide. So we do, as Diane mentioned, have a nice website. The staff here have been great in working through this process with your outreach consultant, Trepepi Smith. I know we meet every other week to keep this train going. So there's a wealth of information on this particular website. Next slide, please. There's also social media, as you can see, the various URLs for those particular media channels. Next slide, please. So what we'd like to do is, when you open up the public hearing, is to get some data from those 2 check marks up there. And I'd be happy to answer any questions on the mapping tools before you open the public hearing. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Very good. I don't believe you stated your name for the record.
That's by design. My name is Jeff Tilton.
Thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome.
All right, Chairman, is that door locked to the chambers?
I don't believe so. I don't know.
It's locked? Why is the door locked?
We need to unlock it. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right, questions?
We're going to have another time to ask questions, right?
Your time's now.
The time is now?
Yeah, ask some questions if you're on the mapping systems.
Okay. So you said you're waiting on census data, and I get that part, but is there any opportunity, based on how small our county is, and just people I've talked to who've already looked at the census data in general, and not, from what I'm told, not seeing a large growth? I believe that number's under 1,000. There's no opportunity for you to be a little bit more proactive and speedy in getting some draft maps out based on raw census data that you have?
We have the estimated data. Proactive might be irresponsible as well. There's a bit delicate balance there. We want to make sure that we are bringing to the community true information. The issue that's at hand is there are nearly 100,000 inmates in the California prison system. We don't know how many of those will be reassigned, not literally, to Kings County. So that's the missing piece. So we want to be really careful, and if we're being conservative about it, that's by design as well.
That is a question that I had for you. So for us and for the public, how does that the prisoner adjusted numbers affect redistricting today versus 10 years ago?
Yeah, I can't speak to 10 years ago, but I can tell you that those data figures will be dropped into the overall Kings County data set, and it's based on where their previous address was. And so it could really change the numbers a little bit in the current districts, could change the numbers in a particular community or census designated place.
Yeah. Well, my district's the only one that has state prisons in it, and as you know, there's 3 of them. When I bring up 10 years ago, we didn't count inmates in the population, correct?
I don't know.
Under redistricting?
I don't know.
Yeah. You don't know that?
I do not know that.
If I may speak to this, Diane Freeman, that is also my understanding. I've inquired with the parties who participated in redistricting last time. That I wasn't personally present, but upon inquiry, I was informed that we did not include the prison population in the calculation in 2011.
No, that's the information I was given, and thank you for the email about the fact that we wouldn't have updated census info today. I appreciate that. That's a concern.
And also, if I may, Ms. Chair, it's not that your district has 3 prisons, it's that statewide population has to be adjusted for where everybody's last residence was. So that'd be all 5 districts in Kings County would be affected by that.
Okay, but I guess to the point of redistricting, what I'm trying to find out for us and for the public is, how does that really impact redistricting? Meaning, you just heard 10 years ago, those inmates didn't play a role into the population of the district that I represent. I'm trying to figure out how that's a holdup. And I'm not badgering you. I'm trying to get information out for the public here, and so we could show a point of being fair here. If those numbers aren't going to affect the mapping, then why is that such a strong holdup?
So, first of all, I don't feel badgered. I'm a Central Valley boy. I have really thick skin. The other part is it's difficult to explain in that I'm trying to create like an analogy. It's like when you're closing a house, you don't know how much of that refund you're going to get, but you know you're going to get a refund that's from escrow, and that's what we're waiting for. And we're just asking people to be patient for the next 2 to 4 weeks. Once we have it, and once we start drawing lines, there's going to be like this huge sigh of relief. I wish I could tell you what an estimated inmate population that are going to come into the county of Kings. I don't have that. It's impacting counties, cities, school boards all over the state. Yeah.
Thanks.
And I will add an added comment. And my perception of this is that there could be additional people added to the districts of Kings County because the prison population was not previously readjusted back into the county. So there will be some sort of inflow from the readjustment. We just can't predict what that inflow is going to be. But there will be an inflow to the county of population that wasn't accounted for last time by virtue of the way things were handled.
Got it. I understand. I understand that point from the way you put that out. So when you talked about the 5 districts and equal population, there's a buffer to that, right?
Yes.
Can you, for the public, can you let us know what percentage we have to play with?
We need to stay under 10%, or 10% is really the magic mark. If we go over 10%, we're subjected to question. So if we have a particular district that is 5% over population, over the equal population or the ideal population, we only have 5% to play with on the remaining 4 districts. So the total variation has to be 10 or less.
Oh, countywide, not per
Countywide,
district?
countywide.
Okay, I think that's important to understand because 10 years ago, one of the reasons my district, District 2, grew to include another community, going to 4 communities versus 10 years ago having 3, was the point was expressed about equal population. And at that time, my district, I believe, was just over 3,000 people short some of my colleagues. So we had to figure out a way to add. So I appreciate hearing about that buffer. I didn't hear a lot. I don't recall too much about that buffer 10 years ago. The other point that you expressed as far as equal, but I didn't hear you hit on, and I just want to know if it's factual or a misperception. But is it factual that based on our county's population that there has to lawfully be 2 Hispanic majority supervisorial districts?
I can't speak to the legal acts. I'll defer to Ms. Freeman on that. It's our intent to try to have as many as possible of the 5. That would be ideal. But I'll defer to Ms. Freeman on that.
Yeah, really without knowing how the data is coming about and what it's going to look like, it's impossible at this point to determine whether or not we are legally required to create a second minority district. I think that it's something that everybody is tuned into. Everybody's aware of the possibility. But really, I can't tell you or provide any kind of opinion about whether it's going to be legally required until we know what that data looks like. And then we will be able to assess using the accurate data, which I do think is critical, to avoid confusion that we as a county don't put out proposed maps using data that's not the final data. I think it would lead to confusion to do that. So delaying until we can have that accurate data, we'll be able to assess what's legally required at that point.
Okay, so for the public's clarification, so there's a trigger that to answer my question, there's a trigger that says yes, lawfully there has to be 2, or no, there doesn't have to be 2.
You know, it is all a balancing. And rather than getting into too much of the details at this point, I don't want to, there is a balancing, there are interests, there are things that we have to consider. And there could be a point where the county is required to do that in order to have legally supportable maps.
Larry, 10 years ago, did we have to do that?
Oh, I believe we did have to, I think the data was such to where, if I remember correctly, I think we have 2 minority-majority districts, of which yours is one, and I think there was one 51-49% that was real close. But I don't remember what a threshold there is that says you have to have 2 or 3 or whatever the number is. I don't remember. Okay.
Thank you. And I want to bring that up for clarification for some public comments that were put in. I'm trying to get some of the information out. So when you talk about these communities of interest in these neighborhoods, as our consultant, have you been on the ground? Have you driven through the Armonas, the Stratfords, the Home Gardens?
Yes, I have.
You have?
Yeah. Like I said, I was not raised in Kings County, raised in San Joaquin, worked in San Joaquin, Stanislaus counties. I've been up and down this state.
But as our consultant on the job?
I work with nearly 30 jurisdictions, so my time is limited as well. So I don't know to what extent you're asking as far as driving up and down through the county.
Any extent?
Oh, yeah, several times, yeah.
Where have you been?
I've been to, I work with Lemoore, been through Hanford. I stopped at Earl Schweib this morning to get air in my tires. Corcoran, excuse me. Avenel,
Okay.
Kettleman City.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm asking that is because there's also in the public record a request and from some elected officials and from some community members for these public hearings to be held in the evening in those communities. Are you prepared right now to present any type of schedule to the county? And I could get that. It would, if we did that, it'd be better to wait until we get the census data broken down.
Yeah, I want to be very respectful to the board, to you, and to staff. This process started probably 3 months ago. A big part of that process was scheduling. Okay. Locations, times. I would have to defer to staff on its decision to go with the schedule that we're going with now. I don't want to be disrespectful to anybody. So when you ask me directly, personally, that's really not my role to create schedules. It's to work with the jurisdiction to create a schedule that matches all the schedules for everybody, all the individuals involved as part of this process. I think we have to keep in mind, I'm not making any excuses here. I'm just bringing to the public, the board, the reality. There are hundreds of jurisdictions going through this process right now. There are dozens that are going through this process that have December 15th deadlines as well.
I get that.
Excuse me, let me finish, please. And it's not just redistricting. There are folks who have received demand letters from attorneys claiming that they're violating California Voting Rights Act. So then they are going through districting as well. So we're competing with a lot of jurisdictions going through both the redistricting and districting process. And to get public engagement we're also competing in that respect too. So I would defer to staff with respect to the scheduling question, but I can't answer it directly.
Okay, are you done? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. I don't care about any of the jurisdictions. I only care about the County of Kings. And I say that from the point that you're hired here for us. And so respectfully, I have zero interest in that part, okay? So staff side, do you have something you want to add as it relates to the schedule possibilities?
Yes, I do. Thank you for the opportunity, because I want to state that in our current contractual agreement with NDC, we have incorporated the public hearings as scheduled. They do not include workshops or additional public hearings in cities or in remote areas of the county. That is the board's discretion to direct that. So if the board wants to see that happen, the board can certainly provide direction to us that you want to have that happen. But until that, NDC is in the public hearings as we have scheduled. They are as presented, and they do not include those visits, those additional hearings in cities.
Okay. What I just heard was NDC throw it to staff and you just threw it back to him.
No. I don't mean, what I mean to say is we have a contract with NDC.
Yeah.
And within that contract, NDC is going to provide a certain number of public hearings. So, to ask them to do something above and beyond that would be an additional service beyond the existing contract. Now, I'm sure if we came to NDC and said, would you please, can we amend our contract for additional services? I'm sure they would be amenable, and we would have to find times to schedule those things. But within the existing contract, those services are outside of it.
Early on, we were told that the contract is to include public hearings, but that it didn't mean that the possibility of adding more, and staff even presented, of going to these rural communities, that option was there. And so, but I'm starting to feel like that option is now a nuisance versus us actually having a positive discussion about going out there. So again, I'm trying to respond to written correspondence, some public testimony, and I was hoping that staff would be proactive and responding to that. I get that at the end of the day, I can make a motion. I can probably do it today, but I would rather I wouldn't want to have a motion to be made to go out there without staff actually having something in front of us versus something that says, here's a possibility, here's a possible date for Armona, here's a possible date for Stratford and Kettleman versus someone just blurting out a motion, let's go and take these meetings to these outlying communities. Do you think that's something you could bring to the board on a regular agenda item versus scheduling another public hearing? Something like, let's say, within the next 3 weeks, draft schedule for the board to consider?
Absolutely, it's something that I can do. We can, if it's the direction of this board, or if it's your request, we can certainly bring a proposal to the board for an expanded scope and additional public hearings, and then this board can consider it and direct us whether to move down on that road or not.
I would like to see that at my request, and I would understand that then it would be up to the board to vote on something like that or modify. But I'm saying to make a decision like that, I would like us to all have something on paper, some kind of schedule, so we can make an informed and educated decision versus easily throwing out a motion today to do that.
Thank you. Yep.
So are we live on WebEx today?
Yes, we are.
So that's the whole county, whoever wants to see it can watch it at any time.
Yes, and
The meeting to somewhere else wouldn't change that other than make everybody else work harder and move our technology to other places.
there are complexities that would, if we had an official public hearing in an alternate location, it would have to we would have to decide whether we were going to do it virtually or just in person. And if it's virtually, then we would have to move all of the technology and everything. And it could be quite a cumbersome process to do that if we're going to do it virtually from all those locations. I want to add also that this hearing today is being broadcast on WebEx. People can participate via WebEx. But after the hearing today, these proceedings will be published on our website and be accessible to anybody who wants to view them. The slideshow, the testimony, everything will be available for anybody on the website with a click to view, and then they can submit public comments in various forms afterwards. So these proceedings are available to anybody in Kings County otherwise who wants to click on the Kings County's website, redistricting website.
Can I clarify or get you to clarify?
Yeah, hold on, let him finish.
So moving the meeting would be kind of a conflict or complicated for staff, but everybody can watch this meeting at any time, anywhere, even after our meeting, correct?
Yes, but I want to make a clarification. If we do not broadcast it remotely, if we're in a different location and we do not broadcast it remotely, then we just have the typical coordination of a public hearing. If we want to broadcast and do it via WebEx or some other media format as well from a remote location, then it would add significant complexity and yes.
I'm all done.
Questions? I have a question with respect to the Latino majority districts. I mean, can you give us a rough definition of what that is? I mean, I know in the simplest terms, but I mean, the scope of determining a majority Latino district.
Yes, and in fact, I think that Jeff might be in a good position to address that. Otherwise, let's see how Jeff addresses that. Since
So our intention here is to avoid two things from occurring, is to avoid packing a particular district, which, so if you packed a particular district, say with Hispanic or Latino, then you're diluting the other four. The opposite is what we call cracking, is diluting that particular protected class, and then and you're just diluting it all the way across all the 5 districts. So what we do, once we get the actual data and then we get the maps, we'll come back and we're going to show you the percentages of those particular protected classes in each of the districts, and we'll highlight this is a strong district or these 2 districts are strong. We can't do that until we get the data. And the thing that we're really looking at, it's not necessarily individuals. We're actually looking for citizen voting age individuals. Not necessarily registered to vote, but they're eligible to vote. And those are the percentages that we're really looking at. So that's a big part of it.
And then again, is it a simple majority? It's like
No,
50 plus 1, is it
it's not.
domination? Yeah.
It's not a simple majority, and that's why it's so hard for me to state the threshold right now. But what I will do for you, if you would like, is I will come up with a succinct explanation of that threshold that I can present to you at a later time, if that would be helpful.
Perfect, thank you.
Well,
That's what I have. Okay, you have other questions?
Follow up. Diane, is there a difference that gives the board more room to get to these rural communities from holding a public versus holding a public hearing where, the broadcasting issue comes into play for virtual versus calling it a workshop? For instance, if I wanted to respond to the city of Avenel specifically, who requested that they get some kind of information held in that community on a weeknight in the evening, what are the parameters there for us to go and do that? A workshop on redistricting, giving the info versus calling it a public hearing?
Well, the biggest difference is going to be that a public hearing is, a workshop is not the public hearing, so it would not be this board conducting the workshop. This board would not have to travel in whole down there to do that. It can be conducted by staff. It still has to be accessible, and if it's going to be done remotely, then we would still have the complications of bringing equipment and WebEx. If it's going to be just live only, then again, it eliminates those complications. But the biggest difference is that it's not a meeting conducted by this board as a public hearing, but it can be conducted by staff.
Okay, so is there anything that stops me, if the board wasn't interested in going and holding a public hearing, that stops me from going down there and requesting assistance from staff to go hold a workshop in the city of Avenel on redistricting?
If you wanted to participate in a workshop in redistricting, and as long as we didn't violate the Brown Act, then I don't see that there would be any harm in your participation, except let me give it some further consideration so that I can.
Ms. Chair, for what it's worth, we did that, as I recall, 10 years ago. We took a number of maps down to Corcoran, I think Kettleman City, a number of other areas. Staff did that.
Okay.
Do you recall that? That's what I recall.
I don't remember that. I probably didn't go to those.
Okay.
On there.
But
if you did,
my point is, staff was more than willing and ready to take various options out and consider it without it actually obviously requiring a full public hearing type approach. Workshops and those kind of things would be, I think staff could do that easily enough.
Okay. When you, Diane, can you also, when you, as you start to put together some information for the board to consider on holding a public hearing in some of these rural communities, which obviously is better than a workshop in my opinion, can you check into the places that already broadcast, like Corcoran? Obviously, because of the pandemic, everyone learned how to do it, whether it was Zoom or WebEx. Avenel City Council, they have in-house to broadcast virtually to help answer some of those concerns that were brought up today is possible obstacles. They're already doing it over there. I don't see how hard it would be for our IT department to work jointly with them to figure out a way to do that.
I can certainly explore that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. One quick question. We did have 2 attendees walk in. I know you had asked questions with respect to if anyone needed an interpreter. You don't? Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Further questions from the board? Okay, at this time, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing and take testimony from anyone that wishes to give.
Actually, if we could read the first letter into the record.
This letter was received on July 27th. Only one page was read out at that time, so we're going to read the entire letter again. Regarding July 27, 2021 redistricting public hearing. Dear Kings County Board of Supervisors, I am writing on behalf of Valley Voices, a local 501c3 nonpartisan nonprofit organization established to increase civic engagement and voter education throughout Kings County. In this endeavor, we are committed to ensuring that districts have population balance and are redrawn to accurately reflect the interests of all residents of our community and are created in such a manner so as to comply with Section 2 of the Federal Voting Rights Act and the Fair Maps Act. Valley Voices would like to thank you for commencing the public hearing portion of the Kings County redistricting process last Tuesday, July 20th, 2021, in the Board of Supervisors chambers and online via the WebEx portal. We are concerned, however, with several inconsistencies that have occurred in relation to this public hearing, thus raising concerns and confidence as to the integrity as we move forward. The items addressed at the hearing related to website and email inaccuracies, as pointed out by Supervisor Valley, are shocking, given the team of 23 communication experts, robust enough to offer experienced and effective professionals for the job, yet small enough to be nimble and responsive, as stated in the Tripepi-Smith proposal presented at the Board of Supervisors prior to giving them a $40,000 contract. In addition to the missteps mentioned above, there were several issues that shamefully hindered public access to last Tuesday's public hearing. Specifically, the general public was compelled to give their name and contact information prior to the doors of the Board of Supervisors chamber being unlocked for entry. Public meetings should be open to the public. Online Spanish interpretation was offered as a whispered translation and often not understandable due to the main English audio also being captured. Translation did not include all information that was shared in English. Visuals presented during the meeting were only shown in English, not Spanish, including online. The Board of Supervisors general meeting had no explanation of the Spanish translation starting at 10 a.m. for those individuals who joined prior to the public hearing start time. With no explanation of what to expect, some Spanish speakers could potentially disengage before the meeting begins. ASL interpretation for hearing impaired in the community was not offered. Documents presented were not offered in high contrast for the vision impaired or the colorblind. Public comments submitted for public testimony were not read into the record. In an effort to facilitate the best possible community input for the county's redistricting efforts, Valley Voices requests that the Kings County Board of Supervisors offer interactive maps that can function as a lookup tool to facilitate the best community input for these redistricting efforts, similar to the option Find My District, which Tulare County is offering to its residents. Although it is stated on the redistricting website, redistrictkings.com, draw a map, that an interactive review map is coming soon, we believe it should become the top priority and be made available within a week, as the PDF currently available on the Board of Supervisors website does not allow residents to quickly nor easily identify which district they currently reside in. We also request that as the process moves forward, the interactive map include a download function of current and all proposed boundaries, communities of interest geographies as shapefiles or geodatabases, and are able to include for each the equivalency block spreadsheet. We also request that all communities of interest, COI, geographies, points, and polygons identified by the public be included within 24 hours of being submitted to interactive website for the entire community to review. We request that public hearings be held in several of the Kings County communities, such as Armona, Avenel, Corcoran, Kettleman City, and Stratford, so as to allow residents in these communities ample opportunity to provide public comments. We believe that these public hearings should not come at an additional cost to taxpayers and should be included as part of the terms and conditions of NDC's and Tripepi's original contracted services, as the Fair Maps Act requires cities and counties to engage communities in the redistricting process by holding public hearings and/or workshops and engaging public outreach, including to non-English speaking communities. These public meetings should be held after business work hours so as to accommodate those that work work during the day and are unable to attend the public hearings scheduled during the Board of Supervisors' regular Tuesday morning meetings. We believe scheduling not one public hearing at 6:30 PM limits the working community's ability to participate in the redistricting conversation. Thank you for your consideration on our views. We look forward to these issues being addressed at the July 27th, 2021 Kings Redistricting Public Hearing Session. We look forward to working with you to ensure that districts are redrawn to accurately reflect the interests of our community. Sincerely, Ruth Lopez, Founding Executive Director, Board President, Valley Voices.
Thank you. From?
The media advisory that you received.
Oh, that's a media advisory. That's not a testimony.
Actually, Claire Fidiasi, I believe, is going to be discussing it. I was supposed to just give it to you, and then she will discuss that.
Can I get clarification from council? I mean, a media advisory is not testimony, at least in my mind, but
That's correct. That's correct, Mr. Chairman, that a media advisory would not be correspondence.
okay, thank you. Okay, further testimony.
I do not see anyone with their hand raised. I don't have any cards, but I don't know if anyone in the audience wants to. Do we have someone with their hand raised? I'm sorry.
Claire.
Fidiasi does have her hand raised on.
Okay. Ms. Fidiasi, please go ahead. You're on mute. Nope, still not. We can see your lips moving, but we can't hear you.
Happens to all of us.
Is it, she just needs to quickly unmute? Ms. Fidiasi, it appears that you are unmuting, but it doesn't appear that you have a microphone on your computer.
She said it's either a microphone. Does she have the AirPods in, or? Give her the calling number.
I wouldn't know what that number would be. Do we have the, can we pull up the WebEx where we can give her the phone number to call in? Or is it on the line? I don't think it's.
Yeah, we're still not hearing you. We do have a phone line call in. We're trying to get that for you. Okay, I don't know if you can see on the website, the audio connection, the 415 number, 415-655-0003.
Still got to get eyesight.
Appears she's calling in. No, it appears she's given up. Yeah. Okay.
Chair, if I might add, being a veteran of these types of things, she's also going to need the meeting ID number, and I believe that's what she was trying to voice
for.
with her lips, yeah.
Oh.
So,
Can you see the meeting ID number, or would you like me to read it? Okay, it's meeting ID number is 177-798-2980. Now there's a host key. 552-287. Oh, sorry, 555-287.
You can call my cell phone, I'll put it on speaker.
Then after you dial that, you just have to do 2 somersaults and
Yeah, it's like breaking in Fort Knox over here.
Live out by me with no service.
Hey, Craig, I'm serious.
It says I'm unmuted.
okay.
Let me turn my computer down. Hold on.
Thank you.
So my sound is off. Oh, hold on a second.
Yep. We're getting the same echo. There it goes.
I can hear myself. Hold on a second.
Just mute. Can you mute your video? Or her audio, yeah. I think she was trying to do that. Give her a try. No. Okay. Okay. So we're going to bring in a different device and have you call that number. So at this point, let's move to other testimony and we will come back to you if that's okay.
Actually, I just left the meeting. Can you hear me now?
We can. It's perfect. Go ahead.
Okay. So I apologize for all of that. My name is Claire Fidiasi. I'm here today representing Valley Voices. My colleague has hand-delivered paper copies of our proposed Board of Supervisors map. Now, while the population of Kings County decreased by just under 500 people from 152,982 in 2010, it is now 152,486 as of the 2020 census numbers. The ethnic makeup of the county changed significantly, with the percentage of the Latino population growing from 51 to 57%. So not accounting for the changes to come from the reallocation of the prisoner population, the Latino population grew by 8,741 people. The white non-Latino population decreased by 9,518 people. The black non-Latino population decreased by 2,014 people. And the population of 2 or more races grew by 1,717 people. Now, given these changes in population, Valley Voices has conducted an analysis of Board of Supervisors districts, excluding the prisoner population, and has determined that it is possible to create 2 Latino majority districts, number 2 and number 4. Kings County has historically disenfranchised Latinos. Now, according to the Voting Rights Act, Kings County will be required to create 2 Latino majority districts. The map we are presenting here follows the criteria established by the Voting Rights Act and the Fair Maps Act. This map does not take into consideration the location of any Board of Supervisors residents, but rather uses indicators such as the residential clustering of groups of voters with common interests, the locations of municipal boundaries or physical geographic features, and the desire to keep a district relatively close together. Ultimately, it is up to the Board of Supervisors to determine the actual lines of each district. We do know that if the law isn't followed, there are interested parties willing to participate in litigation to make sure that everyone in Kings County is represented and the letter of the law is followed. The taxpayers of Kings County do not deserve to be subjected to millions of dollars in fines, similar to what happened in Kern County, due to mistakes made by hired entities under contract with the county. We at Valley Voices look forward to working together towards creating a fair and equitable map for the residents of Kings County. We are confident the Board of Supervisors will follow not only the letter of the law, but the spirit of the law. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I don't see any hands raised. Do we know who JW is up there? They did have their hand raised earlier. I mean, okay, no. All right. Then, sir? You want to?
Well, I was just going to request that Valley Voices, who did they submit the map to? Or to whom did they submit the map? That's what I don't. Oh, perfect. Okay. The only request I have is if they would either let us know if they want to try to replicate their submission after all the data are out, or are they going to resubmit? That's the only question, and I don't know if staff could connect with them or the representatives.
Well, they're listening to you, so.
Yeah, it'd be great. We'd love to have that submission. Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, it is our intention to submit updated maps as soon as the prison population has been reallocated.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
This is public comment. Oh, okay. So let's get public comment out. And, all right. I don't see any further hands raised. We do have folks in the chamber.
I do not have any speaker cards, so I don't know if anyone would like to speak.
For those that, do you wish to speak today on this item? Okay. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on the item today? Okay, thank you. This time we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and move back to the board at this time. Any questions from the board? Supervisor Rowley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sir, would it be helpful to you on the question that you just asked for Valley Voice to clarify just even the numbers? Like, I don't understand if it was intentional or if you just take District 1, for example. It looks like they moved District 1 to District 5. On their map, does it matter to them if that District 1 is District 5 and the District 5 is District 1? You see what they did on there? I don't know if that's intentional, but does that matter to you?
I don't have that. Is this on?
Well, there is, I mean, there's a copy of the map, but it's not definable at this point.
Yeah, and we'll
can't make out anything on that map with respect to, at the actual lines that exist today, whether it's on the, I mean, it's just not in a form that's, useful at this point. So
We're going to try to make it as easy as possible for the residents. If they're used to, I live in District 5, then instead of switching the number because it's redistricting, that's just going to cause confusion.
I just want to know if that was intentional or oversight.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. This time, I don't see any further questions. So barring that, we will now move to the next item on the agenda, which is another public hearing.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, are you closing this public hearing at this time?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I heard it.
You don't need a motion to close.
Next one, 11:15.
Pardon me? You don't need a motion to close the public hearing.
It's just a public hearing. All right. So we'll move to the next public hearing on the agenda, which also comes from County Council, Community Development. So whoever's going to take this.
Actually, Chairman, this is Catherine Venturella, Clerk to the Board of Supervisors. All of the board and staff have received a letter from Thomas Godfredson that the CUP appeals for 1901, 1902, and 2002 have been withdrawn.
Okay. With that, makes it pretty easy, I guess, right? No need. All right. And with that, we will move to item 7 on the agenda, which is board member announcements and reports. Supervisor Forgoodness.
I'm good.
Supervisor Neffs.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The LAFCO meeting held last week, Chuck Kinney was appointed as the executive director. Also approved his attendance to the Cal LAFCO conference, which is in October, as a voting delegate representing Kings County. At the CART meeting, we also heard a report on the seasonal pass program. We have instituted the seasonal pass program the last couple of quarters with over 300 passes being sold, and approved continuing the program through October, November. I also kind of threw in a deal since December is going to be a free month for riders. We should probably make it get 3 months for free, but marketing is apparently not taken well. But so currently right now, the next passes that will go on sale are for October and November. We also approved a joint development policy for the new transit center that's currently being planned for downtown Hanford. So we're moving forward with that project. At the Association of Governments board meeting, we held an update or received an update on the regional transportation plan and sustainable communities strategy by creating a group that will assist us in formulating those new plans for the future. We also adopted the State of Good program repair list that has gone through for staff in the various communities. We also approved a grant, planning grant for self-help enterprises, providing water funding for household water well systems. And that's very appropriate for the drought that we're in today. And that will, I think, add about $100,000 to the self-help enterprise in their efforts in helping individuals develop their own individual wells. And then we wrapped up the evening with a discussion on the Valley Voice trip. Those, again, will not be in person. They'll all be virtual. And they continue to work on scheduling starting in September. And so here in a few days, that will get started. COVID and air quality continues to impact a lot of high school sporting events, a lot of game movement, canceling, rescheduling, really adds a new skill set to many of the coaching staffs that are now dealing with that situation for the last year and a half, and they're getting pretty creative. So hopefully that will continue in the future, and hopefully look forward to a time when we can make schedules work and not have COVID and air quality and transportation and everything kind of make things a little more difficult. And then at the Lemoore Raceway, we were active on Saturday. Air quality was somewhat, you could cut the air with a knife type deal. We had almost 70 cars participate. Attendance was down due to the heat and the air quality. And we did observe a moment of silence for the military personnel killed overseas, so as part of the opening ceremony. So with that, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Supervisor Rowley. Nothing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Nothing?
Oh, yeah, nothing. Thank you.
And other than I had a long weekend, 4-day, well, Friday through Monday, best weekend in a long time. Had my 4-month-old grandson all 4 days, and had a blast with him. So other than that, Supervisor Verboen.
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move to board member correspondence this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Have no board correspondence to report. As far as upcoming meetings and events, there is going to be the Lieutenant Commander Otis V. Tolbert U.S. Navy Annual Memorial Golf Tournament at Lemoore Golf Course on Friday, September 10th. Check-in is at 7 a.m., start time at 8, $75 per person, $300 per foursome. Cost includes fees, golf cart, and lunch. Also, there's going to be a renewable solar ribbon cutting event at Donnell Brothers, 9623 Idaho Avenue, Hanford, September 10th from 11 to 1. Guest speakers include Congressman David Valadao, Rance Donnell, and Dusty Howes. The Kings County Sheriff's Posse Crab Feed coming up on September 11th at Burris Park. Gates open at 6. Tickets $150. All you can eat crab and tri-tip. Groundbreaking ceremony for SB 81 Round 2 project, Juvenile Facility and Day Reporting Center, September 15th at 1:30. Links for Life Pink Passion Picnic at Hanford Civic Auditorium, October 20th, 2021 at 10:30. And there will be no Board of Supervisors meeting next week, the day after Labor Day. As far as upcoming agenda items, on September 14th, Community Development Agency will have revised resolution number 200001 for the 2019 Home Investment Partnership Program application. Finance will have the 21-22 property tax rates. Fire Avenel Services Agreement will be on the agenda. Health has 3 items, of course, the COVID-19 update, TB control program, real-time allotment funding, and California Home Visiting Program. Human Service Agency has agreement with the Intelligy Corporation for workload management tool software, and IT has there's a protest of award of RFP for 2021-72 specialty mental health services to children and youth. And that's it for upcoming agenda items.
All right, very good, thank you.
Did you say the public safety luncheon?
Oh, I didn't. That dropped off my calendar. I did not.
Yeah,
I am
public
sorry.
safety luncheon is September 24th at Hanford Civic at 11 a.m.
I want to make sure I get that on the next agenda.
Yeah.
Next one, too.
Thank you.
I'd like to announce, just say thank you to Larry Spike for coming in for the last couple months. I appreciate your dedication to Kings County, and I appreciate you being here. It means a lot that we have people in our community like Chief Lynch that would take time out of retirement, come back and help our county in a time of need. I want to say thank you for what you've done. I know it's not your last day here, but I do appreciate you coming in on the CAO.
Hey, thank you. It's been my pleasure. Unlike Bill Lynch, though, I'm not staying. So.
But just like Bill Lynch, you're also counting down the days like he is. So.
Yeah.
But also, I want to point out this is Carrie Woolley's last meeting as well. Yeah. And I do want to appreciate and thank her for all that she did during this time period as well. So I have a new person in that seat, a new person in this seat come September 14th.
Yeah, that's the last 2 years have been, a really challenging 2 years with COVID, and then, you look at the transitions that so many people have made. The county is not different, with respect to staff changes and movement. It just seems to have highlighted, a lot of personal choices that take place in times of challenges, and just to everyone that's stood up, through this time. Thank you, and especially to both of you, Jim, Herb, coming over from San Luis Obispo to join the team, and we are working through that transition, and excited about finding backfills on some of this, and moving the county into the next phase of its life and challenges and all of those things that come with us. And I know both with Larry, again, thank you as well for your calming spirit, and it's really helpful in running the county and bringing issues to a head, and working through them professionally, and I truly appreciate that. And I know you're still going to be around because we have a new CAO, and he's going to have some questions as well and some challenges. And I think that your experience is valuable.
Well, I appreciate that, but I would be remiss if I didn't also point out the fact that Carrie, Dom, and Matthew were, they took care of that budget. That was not my work, and they did all that work with all the department heads and everybody else out there who worked on that. And so I just want to really appreciate the fact that they stepped up, because it was really, the work on that was pretty much done when I got here. Although I shouldn't say that. I mean, the proposed budget, but all the stuff that went in that led to the shortest budget hearings in history was all because of them. And so I just want to thank them for all that they've done too. And yeah, you're right. I'll be around. I just trying to be helpful any way I can. I appreciate all that Kings County's done for me in my career here since starting in 1981 originally. So anyway, almost as long as you, Joe. So anyway, thank you very much.
The most important thing is you have your health, and without health,
Yes, thank you for that. Can I add, if you don't mind? I thought it was a typo when I saw the press release, but Larry is only the third CAO in the history of Kings County, with Ed coming in as the fifth. So,
yeah, we had a mistake. It was said fourth, but it's actually the fifth.
Yeah.
But I don't think any county's had fewer than us, to be honest with you. Particularly, well, each one of the first three, we served over 20 years. So, I'm not sure that Jim Irwin, but he was close to that, if not that. So
we're going back to 1893, right?
No, we're talking about when the CAO form came in, which is in around 1960, if I recall correctly. So you're talking about 50 plus years of having just three.
60.
So,
well, thank you as well, Larry, and thank you, Carrie, for all your work. I know that's not an easy position to step into, and it should be noted and highlighted as well. So thank you for your service to the County of Kings.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Thank you. Okay, we do have a closed session, three closed session items today. The first is significant exposure to litigation, one case, Government Code Section 54956.9 D2. Second issue is a personnel matter, Government Code Section 54957, Public Employment Appointment, Employee Employment Appointment, County Council, and Personnel Matter, Government Code Section 54957, Public Employee Appointment, Director of Finance. We do have three actually scheduled meetings that were scheduled for 11, so I think we'll take those first and knock those out before we go into closed session. So with that, we will go into recess and come back for closed session after the three remaining items. We will be adjourned until September 7th. Oh, no, the September 7th, 2021 meeting has been canceled, and we will be back here on Tuesday, September 14th, 2021 at 9 a.m. So with that, we'll go to recess.
Good job, Matthew.
Thank you very much.
Yep. All right. Today is Tuesday, August 31st, 2021. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the California Public Finance Authority. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Joe Nevs.
Here.
Richard Valley is absent. Doug Verboon.
Here.
Craig Peterson.
Here.
Richard Fagundes.
Here.
Okay, we have 4 present, 1 absent. We'll move to item 2, which is approval of the minutes from the July 27th, 2021 regular meeting. Board, what's your pleasure?
So moved.
Nev, seconds.
All right, we have a motion and second to approve item 2. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs.
Yes.
Doug Verboon.
Yes.
Craig Peterson.
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Okay, we have 4 in favor, 1 absent. We'll now move to the consent calendar. Board, what's your pleasure?
No questions or comments. Move for adoption.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs.
Yes.
Doug Verboon.
Yes.
Craig Peterson.
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Okay, we have 4 in favor, 1 absent. We'll move to item 4, which is new business. Scott. Scott was there, now he's
I
gone.
thought he was.
He dropped off.
Dropped off.
Ruh-roh. All right,
Chair,
well,
we've done these in the past, and I didn't see anything in the resolution that would raise any red flags for me, so I move as presented, printed.
I'll second that as well.
okay, we have a motion and second to approve item 4.
Resolution 21-13A.
For the record, correct.
For the record, which is for Marin Academy, City of San Rafael, County of Marin, up to 27 million in revenue bonds. And with that, Madam Clerk, would you please call a roll?
Joe Nevs.
Yes.
Richard Valley. Doug Verboon.
Yes.
Craig Peterson.
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Okay. We have 5 in favor, and just for the record, Supervisor Valley has joined us. We'll now move to item 5, which is public comment. Any person may directly address the board at this time on any item on the agenda or other items of interest to the public that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. 5 minutes are allowed for each item. Do we have any public comment?
I do not have any written correspondence and no one with their hand raised.
Okay, very good. We'll move to item 6, which is staff updates, and Scott hasn't rejoined us, so we'll now move to item 7, which is adjournment. Meeting adjourned.
And then we can move right into CalCheck.
Yep. Okay. So today is August 31st, 2021. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the California Community Housing Agency. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs.
Here.
Richard Valley.
Here.
Doug Verboon.
Here.
Craig Peterson.
Here.
Richard Fagundes.
Here.
Okay, we have 5 in present. We'll now move to item 2, which is approval of minutes from the August 24th, 2021 meeting.
Nev's moves.
Bill second.
Right, we have a motion and second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs.
Yes.
Richard Valley.
Aye.
Doug Verboon.
Yes.
Craig Peterson.
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Okay, we have 5 in favor. Motion carries. We'll move to the consent calendar. Board.
Move to adopt the consent calendar as printed.
I'll second as well. We're done.
All right, we have a motion and second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs.
Yes.
Richard Valley.
Aye.
Doug Verboon.
Yes.
Craig Peterson.
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Okay, we have 5 in favor. Motion carries. We'll move to item 4, which is new business. Consider approving resolution 21-09A, K Street Flats, City of Berkeley, County of Alameda, California. Authorize the acquisition and ownership of a multifamily rental housing facility and issue an amount not to exceed $155 million in revenue bonds. And so with that, for your consideration, board?
You want to do it without Scott again?
Absolutely. After reviewing all the documents and looking at all the paperwork, I feel very confident in this project, and Nev's moves to move forward as printed.
I'll second. We're done.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs.
Yes.
Richard Valley. Doug Verboon.
Yes.
Craig Peterson.
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Okay, we have 5 in favor. Motion 4A passes. We'll move now to item 5, which is public comment. Any person may directly address this board At this time, on any item on the agenda or other items of interest to the public that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board, 5 minutes are allowed for each item.
I do not have any written correspondence or anyone with their hand raised.
Okay, very good. Next item is item 6, staff updates, and we have no staff, so we'll move to item 7, which is adjournment. And with that, I see no other information come forward. Meeting adjourned.
And actually, I think
Do we need to transition for the Board of Equalization? Nope. Yep, we're good?
There says YouTube on the agenda. Yeah.
normally don't.
Okay. All right. It's Tuesday, August 31st, 2021, and it's about 11:30 on, this is a regular meeting of the Board of Equalization. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs.
Here.
Richard Valley.
Here.
Doug Verboon.
Here.
Craig Peterson.
Here.
Richard Fagundes.
Here. All right, we've got 5 present, and we have taken care of the Pledge of Allegiance this morning, so we'll move to item 2, which is unscheduled appearances. Any person may directly address the Board of Equalization at this time on any item on the agenda or on other items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. 2 minutes are allowed for each item. Any public comments?
We have not received any written comments, and we have no one with their hands up.
All right, very good. We'll move to item 3, which is approval of the minutes from the August 24th, 2021 regularly scheduled meeting.
I'll move as presented. Verboen?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs.
Yes.
Richard Valley.
Aye.
Doug Verboon.
Yes.
Craig Peterson.
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Okay, we have 5 in favor, motion carries. We'll now move to item 4, which is a consent calendar.
I'll make the motion to approve the consent calendar as presented. Verboen?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs.
Yes.
Richard Valley.
Aye.
Doug Verboon.
Yes.
Craig Peterson.
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Okay, we have 5 in favor, motion carries. Any further information come before the Board of Equalization at this time? Seeing none, meeting adjourned.
Now you're done.